Kamala Harris has again this week been trying to goad Donald Trump into another debate. After their first debate on the ABC, of course, the thing had barely finished before her campaign team were out saying that they needed a rematch. They sent an email out to supporters saying under the bright lights, the American people got to see the choice they will face this fall at the ballot box between moving forward with Kamala Harris or going backwards with Trump. That's what they saw tonight and what they should see at a second debate in October. Vice President Harris is ready for a second debate. Is Donald Trump? The question, though, isn't really whether Trump is ready for another debate. It's whether Trump wants to give her another opportunity to show herself off to the American public. Harris said on the weekend that Trump seems to be looking for an excuse, quote unquote, to avoid another debate. Now, CNN, which is where he faced off against Joe Biden and killed his candidacy, has asked them both to come together again. Harris told a fundraiser, "I accepted an invitation to debate in October, which my opponent seems to be looking for an excuse to avoid when he should accept. He should accept because I feel very strongly that we owe it to the American people, to the voters, to meet once more before Election Day." Trump then told a rally that it was too late to have another debate because early voting had already begun. He doesn't really owe it. He's already done two debates. It just so happens that they were against two different candidates. Now, Trump does run the risk of looking weak by not showing up for another debate, but the reality is he has a lot more to lose. Not because Harris might wipe the floor with him. Most commentators came to the conclusion that Harris, at least on the face of it, won the last debate. The reason he won't do it, and he shouldn't do it, is because it would be a golden opportunity for Harris to properly introduce herself to the American people again, regardless of how well either of them perform. As I said after their first debate, the whole reason they immediately called for another one, Harris's team called for another one, is because she needs another one. If she'd done really badly at the first debate, then she wouldn't touch another one with a barge pole. She wouldn't want one. But if she had done really well, then she wouldn't need one. The trouble for Harris is that the first debate didn't really turn the dial, and even though she's been vice president for the better part of 4 years, she doesn't have the same sort of name and brand recognition as Trump, being a former president. She needs to get her face and name and agenda in front of as many people as possible. It's not about whether or not Trump can debate her. It's a question of why he'd want to give her that platform. I mean, you can hardly blame him for not wanting to do so, particularly when he doesn't have to. And Harris's claims that he's too scared to front up or trying to find excuses not to debate again is a bit rich when she's essentially allergic to the media herself. I mean, she could talk to every big-name broadcaster in America if she wanted to, but she is the one who is scared of showing up. Until now, she'd done one sit-down interview with Dana Bash on CNN, but of course she had Tim Waltz there to hold her hand. Her first solo interview was with a local ABC station in Pennsylvania, not a national thing, a local TV station, and she's also been popping up on a few local radio stations. Then last weekend she did that weird broadcast with Oprah, which mostly involved celebrities falling all over her, but she finally managed to do her first solo national interview during the week on friendly ground again, though, with MSNBC's Stephanie Ruhle. That'd be the same Stephanie Ruhle who just a week ago called Trump a threat to democracy and basically said Harris doesn't need to answer any questions.
I just said I'm not going to vote for her.
Kamala Harris is not running for perfect. She's running against Trump. We have two choices. And so there are some things you might not know her answer to. And in 2024, unlike 2016 for a lot of the American people, we know exactly what Trump will do, who he is, and the kind of threat he is to democracy.
You don't need to know what she thinks because you know what he thinks. Great strategy. And next thing, she has an interview with Harris. And lo and behold, after basically saying that Harris doesn't need to answer questions, she discovered that Harris doesn't answer questions.
Talk about that answer.
I do, but here's what's a little tricky. she doesn't answer the question around if the GOP is controlling the Senate, if she can't raise corporate taxes, where is she going to get the money from, to expand the child tax credit and do all the things she wants to do. And she says, we just have to do it. And that's great, and that's a campaign promise. But the issue is, if it means we're just going to borrow again, then what we're doing is we're just never addressing the deficit. And back in the days when you were a proud Republican, debts and deficits mattered.
Now, it was a pretty friendly chat, so there isn't a great deal of groundbreaking content I can bring to you, but she repeated her lies that Trump delivered the worst unemployment since the Great Depression and lost manufacturing jobs.
Polling shows that most likely voters still think Donald Trump is better to handle the economy. Why do you think that is?
Well, here's what I know in terms of the facts. Donald Trump left us with the worst economy since the Great Depression when you look at, for example, the employment numbers.
It was during COVID, and employment was so high because we shut down the government, we shut down the country.
Even before the pandemic, he lost manufacturing jobs by most people's estimates, at least 200,000.
Now, yes, unemployment hit 14.8% in April 2020, which was the worst since the Great Depression. But as Ms. Ruhle herself points out, it's a bogus number to bandy about because it was at the height of COVID and it was down to 6.4% by the time he left office. And real wages, by the way, were up 8.4% by the time Trump left office. And no, he did not lose at least 200,000 manufacturing jobs. The only other highlight I can really bring you is Harris's love of the word holistically.
Looking holistically at the connection between that and housing, and looking holistically at the incentives we in the federal government can create for local and state governments to actually engage in planning in a holistic manner.
I mean, it's just weak stuff. It's all good and well for Harris to run around saying, oh, Trump's too scared to debate me. But until she's willing to sit down and do a real interview with a real journalist, or heck, even venture into enemy territory at Fox News, she can hardly claim that she has the high ground. Those in glass houses should not throw stones.